All right, welcome guys to the Canadian Daily podcast. Joined by my dear friend Chris Jong. How are you today, mate?
Very well, mate. Looking good. Unlike yourself, a bit blurry there.
So you're saying that
going
you're
well.
looking good.
Yeah, look at this. Look at this lighting. Look at this. It's amazing. It's nice, crystal clear sharpness. You can see
If
every
only
pore and
you
pimple.
could see
You know,
what I see.
mate. I see it
No,
every
I think
day
we're
in the
going to be
mirror.
talking a little bit today. We're going to be talking a bit today about inflation and about the cure for inflation, because we've been enlightened as to what to do because of inflation. And if you are one of the unlucky sods, which clearly we are not, who makes under 300K, then we've got just a solution for you. So if you're a peasant who makes under 300K, then we've got just a solution for you. But talk a bit about that, a bit about inflation and some other things that are happening around this world, a bit of media propaganda, bit of Russia, Ukraine. So, Chris, why don't you kick it off, big fella?
Well, first things first. If you're not making over 300,000 a year, you need to do better. I mean, look yourself in the mirror very, very hard and think about your life decisions. Because if you're not doing that, then clearly you're just not doing good enough. So what we might do? I might just share my screen and I'll bring the tweets up by Bloomberg, I think it was. And
Bloomberg of all people,
that's right, exactly.
Telling people who earn under 300K how to live their life. I don't think that they've ever earned under 300K. The Bloomberg.
No, correct. All right,
I don't think they know what it feels like.
Here we
so
go.
We got an article there. We got a tweet.
It's literally the tweets. Now, has that come up?
I can't see anything.
Hold on. No, I've got to share. Oh man, I've got to set these permissions again. Wait 1 second. The joys of being on live.
Yes, it's the best. It's the only way to do it, though.
It is. All right, so I'm going to go to the security parts here. Just while I'm doing this, mate, any sort of thoughts about why you're not making 300,000 a year?
Who said I'm not making 300,000 a year?
Well, that's a very good point. I guess first and foremost is, are you? But
no, I'm definitely not, and I definitely can't, afford a Tesla like they've so admirably, encouraged us to do. I would love to. I'd love to support Elon Musk and sort of put a bit of money in his kitty, but unfortunately, I can't right now. But I do love Elon Musk.
That was the whole thing. So who was that? It was Stephen Colbert and then the other guy who basically said, they're not worried about petrol prices going up. Pete Buttigieg, that's the one.
Well, they're the noble folks who have got the $60,000 Teslas. I think maybe it's like 100,000 Australian dollars for a Tesla, $80,000 for a good one. I'm not sure how much it is. I haven't really looked into it myself. I haven't gotten to that level of sort of like woke environmentalism yet, where I'm looking at buying Teslas. I'm sure I'll get there one day.
Well, neither have I. Now, mate, I'm going to have to quit and then rejoin because I've got to close Chrome down apparently. So I'll be right back. No,
I'll honestly be disappointed when you're back. So. As we said, though, guys, we've got comedians, or what I'd like to say is a former comedian in Stephen Colbert, telling everybody to buy a Tesla. I think the show, he actually said to everybody, well, I've got a Tesla, so I can sacrifice a little bit of my wage. So thank you very much, Stephen Colbert. I'm just going to get on YouTube here, guys, and see if I can actually find the clip, because it was very funny. Nothing like being preached to by Hollywood elites. Here we go. Oh, no. I won't be able to find it, unfortunately. Anyways, that's normally the way things go around there. I'd be interested to know, guys, if anybody's in the comments right now, if anybody's watching, have you been noticing any inflation? Have you been noticing any food shortages? Have you been going to the supermarket and seeing any food shortages at all, or any of your products that you normally buy? Have they gone up in price? Because, yeah, we're definitely seeing a lot of inflation going on. And I don't know about you guys, but I was shopping at Coles for the last few weeks, and there was nothing on the shelf. I was trying to get my pesto, and there was no pesto. I was going into the meat department, and then he had a big tray of meat coming over, and everybody flocked to it like flies on a shit onto the meat tray.
Hey, that's a great.
For the week. I was saying that I was in Coles. I was in Coles the other week, and everyone they bought some chicken out, and everyone flocked to it like flies on shit.
Oh, that's crazy. I was seeing that over the last couple of weeks as well, actually, and we'll probably talk about that a little bit more as we go on tonight. But it's crazy what's been going on in the shopping centers, and it's only going to get worse. God. All right, so I've finally got the permissions back now to share the screen. So what we're looking at here is the Bloomberg opinion tweets, which is inflation stings most if you earn less than 300K. Here's how's a deal. One, take the bus. I don't know about you, mate, but I take the tram. I'm not going to lie, I do take the tram a fair bit. It's quite a good little service here in the Gold Coast. No, but no, it's been a while since I've taken the bus. Don't buy in bulk. Try lentils instead of meats. Now, if you
That's
recall
a very
as well,
interesting one.
It is, isn't it? Well, it's one of those things that the World Economic Forum was, I guess, predicting, was that we'll be eating meat a lot less. And some might say this is a beginning for that. And then also the fourth thing here is nobody said this would be fun. Well,
really? Because I can recall a lot of people saying it would be really fun.
Do you know what I can recall? I can remember Biden saying it's going to be transitory, and it doesn't seem to be transitory. I think it's well and truly permanent. And then also, I think last week...
Yeah, it's like it's going to be a minor incursion on our lives, maybe.
That's right, minor incursion, transitory. And then last week, he also said that that he's sick of it. The American population believes that inflation happens when government spends money. Now, again, it's one of those things that, again, as you look at this through the lens of the Great Reset, as you know, I do quite a fair bit, it all makes perfect sense that they're moving to break this current system to bring us into the new digital currency. But I just thought it was quite interesting that they, Bloomberg of all companies, would be giving people these tips, because let's be honest, like what percentage of the population do you think actually earns $300,000 or more per year?
I'd say it's probably the top 5%.
Yeah, it would have to be in that. Like, what I might do is I might even do a quick little Google search.
Yeah, I'll have a look at it now.
Yeah, have a quick little Google search. Yeah, now obviously this is based in the USA here, Bloomberg, and this is what they're talking about. But I'd probably even say it's in the top 2 to 3% even as well, which is not a lot of people. And $300,000 per year is a lot of money to be earning. That's not net worth. That's not, even value. This is income in terms of your weekly and monthly income. Now, if we did let me just say 300,000 divided by 12, that means you'd be earning $25,000 per month. And then per week, roughly $6,000 per week.
That could be a dream.
Yeah, it is. It would be. It certainly would be.
So the median total income in Australia in 2018-19 was 51.4 thousand.
Okay, so we're obviously falling a little bit short here in Australia.
So that's Bloomberg 300K. That's USD.
Well, yeah. So what's the median, or what's the percentage of people in the USA who earn 300,000 or more? I think that'd be.
Oh, that's definitely top 1%.
Yeah, it'd have to be. Yeah, something like that. So, let's just say 1%. That's what, 3 million people in the USA? I've
been watching a bit of Kevin Samuels recently. If you've ever seen him on YouTube.
I have heard of him, yes.
And, he's great. And he always, asks the women that he's interviewed, saying like, what kind of like an income would you need? And the women will say, 300, 400,000 of like the man that they marry. And then he goes,
correct.
What percentage of men do you think earn that? And then they'll say, maybe like top like 20, 30% sort of thing. And he goes, top 1%.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's definitely top 1%. So the rest of us are going to be taking the bus, not buying a bulk. And eating lentils. Now, I saw this comment below, and I love this one. Yeah,
the median household income in the USA in 2019 was 70,000.
So household income.
Household income. Average annual real wage in the US was 65. Top 1% of wage earners in the US contribute 20% of annual income. 34 million people below the poverty line. Jesus.
That's crazy. I think this image here basically sums it up perfectly.
Median income for men is 57. Median income for women is 47.
Yeah. So obviously the average person is well and truly falling short. But I think Paris Hilton definitely summed it up perfectly with his T-shirt.
Yeah.
Stop being poor. And the good thing is, like, you can see there's a lot of people who do not like this. Basically the comments have all been, here's other tips. Sell a kidney, rent your womb, 5 people on a moped, and downgrade your house from your house to a camper on public land. That's not a bad idea, actually.
Are these just people taking the piss out of that?
These are some of the comments. Yeah, these are some of the comments, that are that have been replied to from this post, and you can sort of see here.
I mean,
the people aren't happy, and fair enough too.
You'd think that it's a joke, that sort of tweet.
Yeah, you would think so. Yeah,
that's crazy. I'm looking at now some of the top 0.1% of earners in 2020 in average wages. This is from Investopedia. Is 3.2 million. Top 1% is 823,700. Top 5% is 342. So we're looking about the top 6 or 7%. 300K.
Yeah, which is crazy. So it's what's that? That would be 15 million people roughly out of 300 and however many million.
350.
So it's tiny.
Plus,
and there's also
the illegals.
This reply. This person's meme game is strong. So if you guys have seen this meme template before, I think this is definitely the answer.
It says inflation is nearly 10%, and then the next picture says I make less than 300K a year. The next picture says, then fucking buy lentils. Then the next one says, why the fuck would I buy lentils? And the next one says, that's how you beat inflation.
That's right. So maybe Elon Musk, he should use his taxes to buy lentils for the people, and then would beat inflation for everyone as well. So
what did Gad Saad say?
Where's he? Oh, there he is. Exactly. Also put your whiner kids on a once-a-week meal plan of tofu. It would heal Mother Earth and the fatties can trim down. Win-win. Hey, he's got a point. He's always a good satirical guy.
Yeah.
So look, all jokes aside, though, this is an absolute disgrace and a sign of the times of not only where we are, but also where we're going as well. And this does tie in really well with the food shortages that we're going to be having and seeing. So as you were just saying beforehand, people were flocking to the chicken like flies on shit. I think it was
flies on shit.
The scientific terms.
This
has already been happening. That's right, the scientific term. This has already been happening, but it's going to keep on getting worse. Now, last week we covered the fact that the Ukraine and Russia account for, I think, 30% of the world's wheat supplies combined. But the other thing that a lot of people don't really realize is that Russia is one of the largest, or it is the largest exporter of fertilizer in the world. And so obviously you need fertilizer to grow crops. And one of the things that I was looking at is the wheat supplies, or the yield, I should say, the crop yield of wheat globally has already been down low, like lower than usual. Then you chuck in the supply issues with the Russian and I guess most of Ukrainians' wheat as well. They're going to have a lot of issues there. Plus, and then you chuck in the oil situation, and then the fact that petrol prices are going up, which farmers need to use petrol to harvest and do their farm work. They need petrol to transport the food to the stores. We need petrol to go from our houses to the stores and back. So basically, the prices of food. Yeah, correct. And look, this doesn't even include. I think it was some large percentage. I think it's 80%. But fact check me on this one. But 80% of the oil doesn't actually go into petrol and fuel. It goes into other things like plastic and equipment like that. So we're going to see huge inflation, prices continuing to increase, but also the food starting to get more and more scarce as well. So
recommendation for you, 50 things that are made from oil.
Yeah, please, that'd be great.
Okay, so petrol for cars, hairbrushes, brake fluid, household paint, car tires, parachutes, artificial limbs, life jackets, lunchboxes, nail polish, hairspray, flower pots, fishing line, roads, umbrellas, artificial turf, detergent, boats, antifreeze, diesel for cars.
It all sounds useless. It's all useless stuff. We don't need this anyway.
Any of this stuff. Aviation fuel for planes, motorcycle helmets, glue, bowls, football boots, food wrappers, bubble wrap, tennis rackets, toys, medicines, insect repellent, car seats, rollerblades, drink bottles, shower curtains, lipstick, fertilizer, toilet seats, carpets, credit cards, plastic bags, telephones, shampoo, explosives, thank God, weed killer, waterproof coats, toothbrushes, eyeglasses, insulation, and golf balls.
Yeah, that's crazy. And again, like none of those things they are not useful at all. I mean, we can all live without those very, very easily, especially parachutes and life jackets and toothbrushes and hairbrushes. We don't need those at all. Golf balls, yeah, okay. Well, that's one thing I guess some people can't live without. I don't play golf myself, but I know there's plenty of other people out there who are very, very addicted to that. What I might also do is share the screen and take you to this New York Times article as well. which sort of discusses this a little bit further. So with some facts and statistics as well. So, we're looking at here, wheat prices have increased by 21%, barley by 33%, and fertilizers by 40%.
Is this
now again? No, this is globally. This will be globally.
Right.
So the result is that global food and fertilizer prices are soaring. Now, the thing is with this as well, especially the fertilizer, the prices are spiking now, but it's going to take a while for that to filter down to us, plebs, and the food that we're going to be eating, because especially the fertilizer, right? Like, that's not used immediately. We don't get the results of that immediately. It takes a while for the crops to grow and things like that. But, we've already got, the pandemic, we've got shipping constraints, we've got high energy costs, recent droughts and floods and fires. They're warning for an increase in world hunger. Now, us in the West will be relatively okay. Like, obviously, we're going to have food shortages and things like that where things are going to get scarce, but it's the developing countries that are really going to get hit the hardest. They're going to go through potentially a lot of starvation, unfortunately, which is really, really sad. And the worst part of that is it's all avoidable.
They all are. They already are. Yeah, they already are going through a lot of it. They have been due to lockdowns.
Correct, exactly. And then again, like, when you look at this through the lens of the Great Reset, which is what I do, it all makes perfect sense. And this is like another COVID, where it's another tool that they can use to employ to bring in and implement the things they want to implement regarding the Great Reset in terms of greater control, the climate situations, not owning any property and being happy, and all those other bits and pieces here as well. So let's see if we can find any other interesting parts in here. World prices have already gone up. Yeah, look at it. Turkey, Egypt, Bangladesh, and Iran, they've obtained more than 60% of their wheat from these two countries. Now, the interesting thing as well is Iran, and even India, they're all being pushed towards the same sort of political side in terms of, China and Russia buddying up with Iran, and then even India potentially going over to that side as well, which is kind of crazy.
I mean, India, they withheld from the big UN pact, like a UN pact a month ago or so, didn't they? When there was like a big pact to put sanctions on Russia, and I think only 5 countries in the whole world held off, and India was one of them.
Yeah, correct. Which could be very, very bad, in terms of, you got the two most populous countries in the world being India and China. Now, I just saw a comment popping up from Bree. What should people do to prepare for these shortages? It's a very, very good question. Do you have any sort of thoughts on that, Jake?
Well, I mean, I know that Bree is one who is big into getting lots of supplies together and prepping for these sorts of things, and things like toilet paper. And Bree, let us know the kinds of things that you're prepping as well. Like, obviously you want to be getting into the toilet paper. We saw that earlier in the pandemic when people were really stacking up on the toilet paper and just canned food. I hope
you're not implying anything's wrong with Bree's sandwiches there, by the way, mate.
No. I didn't get one. How would I know?
Oh, you didn't even get one? Okay, great.
No. No. She didn't even take me to the garage and show me where all the canned foods are, and sardines and tuna and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, well, what can you do, mate? Didn't want to invite myself.
That's true. Sorry, I interrupted. What else there? What else was she stocking up on?
I didn't see. She's going to have
because you didn't go there. She will. Yes. Well, that's the big thing though. So obviously stocking up. Every time you go to the shops, just buy a couple extra of whatever it is that you're buying, especially things with long shelf life. Now, one thing that really a lot of people might not think about it. They think like you can freeze food and store it for a long period of time. I had a couple of situations within the last couple of weeks where power became an issue for me. The first one was about 2 weeks ago. The entire block's power got shut off for about 6 hours. And this is during the flooding. Not sure what happened there, but power was off for about 6 hours. And then the most recent situation was over the weekend, which I might share the story for that at another time. It was quite funny. But it made me think and realize that realistically, if the power goes off, you've got all your food in the freezer and the fridge. It might last you 24 hours if you keep everything closed before it starts to spoil. Maybe 48 hours. I don't know exactly, but a short period of time. So make sure you are buying food and goods that are going to last and that you don't need to use power to either store or heat up. in order to cook it and prepare it, unless you've got gas cookers. But definitely, of my mind anyway, is to just buy a couple of extra long life food options. Tuna, baked beans, tin soup, all those sorts of bits and pieces. Make sure you look. You've got things like your toilet papers, even like things as simple as like soaps and things like that as well. Because even though it's not necessarily food directly, if there is some sort of issues with petrol going up and other sort of supply issues, those other things can be affected. My Woolies ran out of shopping bags for, I think, a little bit over a week. They had no shopping bags. So basically people either had to come in with their own shopping bags or carry it in their hands and things like that too. So definitely think about your peripherals as well. But realistically, the best thing is to just to buy that little bit extra and think about dry goods or goods that you don't need to store in the fridge and freezer. Definitely is what I'm thinking. And the other thing I'm thinking too, while we're talking about preparations and things like that too, is make sure you don't put all your money in the banks. Keep some cash and keep some money out of the banks, because again, if the power goes out or if the internet goes down and things like that, you can't access that money to buy and transact, but you can still use your cash to buy things.
I'm wondering where's the best places to store it though, because it looks like cryptocurrency could be heavily regulated soon. And then I think that in terms of gold, access to that could also be regulated and cut as well. And then having cash, we could be moving more towards a cashless economy over the next few years as well. So it seems sometimes like you're stuck in between a rock and a hard place when you're talking about your assets.
Yeah, 100%. Well, we are definitely moving towards a digital currency. That's where they want us to go. They want that central bank digital currency to come into play. But I do think gold is a great storage, and make sure it's physical gold as well. Just buy it. You can buy little 1 ounce little things and also coins. Bit of cash.
Physical gold.
Physical gold.
I didn't really know that was an option.
Yeah, get physical gold. Like I've bought gold from the Perth mints before, so you want to make sure it's obviously proper gold and proper precious metals. So you can buy the physical gold. That way you've always got it with you. The good thing is, like, an ounce is like a little tiny little square, right? And an ounce roughly, I think, is worth close to $3,000 Australian, I believe, somewhere around that right now. Wow. So yeah, so if you get that and some coins, and then definitely this might be taking a little bit too extreme, but thinking about like bottles of alcohol and things like that people can trade and things like that too. But you are right. We are moving to a point in time where we are stuck in a rock and a hard place, because even with cryptocurrencies, as you say, the good thing about cryptocurrencies is we can still pay peer to peer, right, without sort of any sort of centralization. However, what they can control, what they will likely be able to control, is the exchanges, which means that people won't be able to take that cryptocurrency and turn it into money that they can spend elsewhere. So I'm definitely thinking.
And I'm keen to hear anybody else's thoughts on that, guys. So if you've got any thoughts, and if you're listening to this, chuck it in the comments and think, are you doing anything to prepare yourself for these food shortages? Have you seen food shortages yourself on the shelves of your local supermarkets or in products, or do you have some sort of some experience with your own business where it's affecting you? Because I think it's happening in more ways than one. A couple of my uncle and my grandpa are property developers, and they have such a hard time getting materials in because of the problems with trade routes at the moment, and the prices going up.
Even art
and also
supplies.
the labor as well.
Yeah, correct. Well, even with art supplies, like a friend of mine has an art supply store, and this is last year. She was talking about the fact that when they order things, most of it isn't even in stock. And then when it is in stock, only less than half of what they ordered shows up in the shipping containers when they've actually get delivered. And so, yeah, there is definitely a lot of other supply issues that was coming from the pandemic, obviously, but it's going to continue on with the prices of oil and also the food issues there too. So definitely, it'd be good to hear other people's thoughts. But of my mind, it's just give yourself options right now. So make sure you do have those little bits of extra food. Think like medications as well. Your Panadols, basic antibiotics and stuff like that as well, or antiseptics and things like that. And then also maybe have places you're ready to go to as well is another thing to do. To start thinking.
And what have you been seeing, Chris, in terms of, I know you follow on Telegram quite closely some people with the lowdown on inflation situation and on the food shortages. Have you been seeing many reports coming out of that domain?
A lot. Yeah, a lot. And they've all been warning that we are going to have some severe food shortages. And again, it's the worst is yet to come with it. Particularly, especially with the wheat and the fertilizer situation. But even Brazil, I believe, is having some big issues right now too. And they're a big exporter of
Right there,
what it is, but some sort of it's just I've lost it off the top of my head, but some sort of supplies there too. Soy, there you go. That's yeah. Well, we don't need so much soy. We don't need any more soy boys. There's already plenty of those out there. But no, definitely. Look, the food shortage it's real and it's coming, and the worst is yet to come. It's basically what.
Have you heard that there's a hormone, or not a hormone, but there's like a parasite in the beef in Brazilian beef that makes men very aggressive and makes women very overly sexual and horny?
No, I've not heard that, but it might explain a few things.
I'm pretty sure that's a fact. There's like
really
some sort of a parasite in the Brazilian beef, in the meat, that if it gets into human beings can make men very aggressive and women very horny. So
that's fascinating. That it does. It explains a real lot. Here we go. Packet of 3 Heinz baked beans was $3 in 2020, and that's now $5.30. Sorry, $5.20. Bree's saying, correcting there, $5.20. Yeah, that is definitely food for thought, and I would say pun definitely intended. So essentially, it's almost double in 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, like we talked about this last week too, 80% of all US dollars in existence right now have been created in the last 2 years, and that is going to keep on working its way through the system. So prices of these things aren't going to go down, especially as petrol goes up as well.
Wow.
One other thing, do you want to talk about like maybe the Zelensky situation and what he's been going on and doing over there too? Speaking of, I guess, what's been going on?
Well, I mean, I was actually just looking at the parasite in Brazil, but I didn't actually find it. But I'm going to read this out anyway because this is kind of funny. So this article is called "Common Cat Parasite Linked to Angry Outbursts in Humans." And it says toxoplasmosis is a parasitic disease that is most commonly transmitted through the feces of infected cats, and people can contract it from handling cat litter. It can also be found in undercooked meat or contaminated water. The parasite that causes it, Toxoplasma gondii, is carried by nearly 30% of all humans, and in most cases is considered relatively harmless. Center for Disease Control, CDC, and Prevention estimates that more than 60 million people in the USA have it, and it's linked to aggression. But that's that. So
was a fun little side journey.
Yeah, sometimes I get on a little tangent, so I can't help myself.
No, that's okay.
So we wanted to talk a bit about Zelensky blocking out political parties. I'm just getting up.
Let me just bring this up as well. Yeah, I'll share the screen here too. There we go.
So Ukraine suspending 11 political parties linked to Russia. Now, I believe that this is going to be something that's going to be coming to the West very soon. And the fact that they're standing up and applauding it is very concerning. Yet American politicians and American diplomats and spokespeople, they're coming out and saying that, he's taken another step towards freedom or another step towards defeating Russia. Whereas this is just blatant authoritarianism. I mean, I can think of very few situations off the top of my head where it would be even remotely acceptable to block political parties from going against you. And then you also said today, Chris, that he's nationalized the media.
This one's yeah. So he's combining all national TV channels into one platform to combat misinformation, basically, to provide a unified information policy. Now, we saw a bit of this in the West here with COVID, and it wasn't necessarily combining all the media platforms together, but what it was is they gave specific packages, I think, of like billions of dollars to the media companies to help present a unified voice. So it is absolutely terrible. And again, when you look at it through that lens of let me just raise that thing here, of this whole Great Reset, like these are measures that they're going to be bringing into place that they are not going to be taking back when these things pass. So essentially, if you look at links to Russian, links to Russia. We know how liberally and loosely they use that. Trump was had links and ties to Russia, and then also Tulsi Gabbard she was listed as a Russian agent because she was questioning the Ukraine. That's right. And Tulsi Gabbard she ran for the political party, for president as a Democrat, but then also was a military veteran too. So get that. So as I said, they use it very liberally. We're going to see that a lot. We also saw them label a lot of people as anti-vaxxers throughout the whole COVID pandemic, that just for standing up for freedom of choice. And the fact that they're actually going the next step, rather than just funding the media companies to present a unified message, is actually nationalizing them, obviously due to martial law. It's terrifying because, again, they censored, throughout the whole pandemic, they've censored one side of the argument, right? That one side. It seems with this, they're taking it one step further. They're not just going to censor people, but they're also going to actively push only one message that really people won't have many options for finding the truth and the right information, which is, it's not good. They're just magicians, right? It's like, what's going on over here? And we're going to do this over here.
Yeah, and often it's really a game of linguistics as well, which is becoming more and more apparent. Like you said, they've got the different sort of names for everybody, and it's you can kind of spot it now. And saying ties to Russia now will be the big boogeyman. Anybody who has ties to Russia or links with Russia will be just cancelable like that. So today it's Russia, tomorrow it could be anything else.
Well, a couple of years ago, while Trump was in office, it was Nazi. And I'm probably going to get taken off the stream for that. But
even isn't in anymore.
No, it isn't. But even with the Nazi thing, that was the big label. Now the Ukrainians actually have literal Nazis fighting for them that then apparently now we're supposed to support. So it's kind of crazy that they'll champion one person over here or one group, and then when it's useful, they'll throw them away in the trash can and then get the new groups over the other side as well. Useful idiots, basically.
Yep. Well, I think that's pretty much what they think of us. But I think Douglas Murray had a great article the other day as well, and I might send you this one.
Yep.
In the group if you'd like, Chris, and you can maybe chuck it up because it's really, really entertaining stuff. And I don't know if you really read much Douglas Murray. Do you?
I don't, but I've seen plenty of his interviews. He's hilarious and also really courageous too. So.
Yeah, he is, but he's a great writer as well, and he often really sort of hammers points home that other people are sort of scared to go near. And this article from The Sun that I've just sent you is called "The Ukraine War is a Wake-Up Call to Woke Britain. We can no longer obsess over microaggressions amid real aggression." And it's so true, and I think that this is something that we're sort of missing now, is the fact that once there's major conflicts on the table, this is when people start to wake up a little bit and start to ignore the bull crap, and when it starts to get seen for the unimportant issues that it is. So will war in Ukraine truly wake this country up? Will a generation brought up on microaggressions and hate crimes experience any jolt now that our continent is seeing real aggression and actual war crimes? Will we finally get our damn priorities in order? You might certainly hope so, but then some of us have had the same hope at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, that the arrival of real potential threat might do away with all of our imagined unreal threats. And that hope didn't last very long. God, I can't put a string of sentences together. And that hope didn't last very long. What is undeniable is that our society has had a strange obsession in recent years. Our politicians fight furiously over how to define what a woman is. They refuse to say certain truths for fear of the woke mob. Our most important figures tread delicately around the truths everyone knew until yesterday. The heads of our intelligence services and armed forces boast of their LGBT credentials more than they boast about getting on with their own jobs. Meanwhile, some soldiers apparently feel their jobs have become so suffocatingly woke they have gone AWOL to fight in Ukraine. Our politicians talk about protecting the planet for the next millennium, but are embarrassed about protecting our own borders. Defense spending is also an embarrassment compared to the billions that this country boasts on spending on welfare. And I think that he hits the nail on the head so much here, because like what he's talking about here is the fact that all we've worried about over the last, say, however many years, since all of this wokeness has just engulfed our culture and engulfed our society, is about these just trivial issues and like we were just so comfortable that we're now worrying about what a woman is and what a man is and about gender. And then we have no idea what it feels like to have the barbarians at the gate and to have real conflict within our society.
Not only that, but even just real issues or real work. I was watching a video about growing food. I think it was over the weekend, and the amount of work and effort that goes in just to grow enough food for one person to live off, it's quite a lot of work, and we don't have to worry about that. So,
And
let
he carries
alone
on here to
say conflict.
If you scroll down just a little bit, Chris, that's good. Up a little bit above pride in our country. Up.
Oh, you mean the other way?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, keep going. So he says, just one of them is the old truth of Ukrainian Russian revolutionary Leon Trotsky, who specifically said, "You may not be interested in war, but war is interested in you," which is a great quote. Because we may not think that we may live in a peaceful, world over here in the West, and we may not be interested in war, but like they said, war is interested in you. In recent weeks, our whole continent has had a brutal wake up to the call to the realities of history. All it requires is one brutal man like Vladimir Putin to throw everything into a different order. Suddenly we are, or we should be reminded of what is vital. That is, the country has a nuclear deterrent. Would it really be good if the only countries that had nuclear weapons were the ones like Russia that actually threatened to use them? And we have been reminded of the need to defend ourselves. Indeed, countries like Germany, which for decades have refused to pay their way in NATO, have suddenly doubled their defense spending overnight. It should not have needed the invasion of Ukraine to remind them of the need for this, but it certainly is a sharp wake-up call. Any society that disarms does not invite the rest of the world to join them in a world of peace and yoga. It simply provides encouragement to rogue states to view you as weak and encourages them to do whatever they like as a result. But the war might also remind us of the need for nationalism, of good, decent faith in the nation state, of the kind of distinguished Britain throughout history. In recent years, the woke left has told us the love of the country is a terrible thing. They have claimed that it is an expression of bigotry and ugly and rampant racism. And it's such a good point here as well, because nationalism is such a dirty word. And, it's often people who are nationalistic and people who take pride in their country and people who actually want to say, hey, look, we've done a great thing in the West. The Western experiment has been a good thing. They're often synonymous with, the white supremacists and, in Australia, you might call them, bogans or whatever you'd like to call them. But there's absolutely nothing wrong. And like, you see this every Australia Day. If somebody wants to celebrate Australia Day on the 26th of January, you are evil.
Yeah.
And we don't have, nationalism is becoming more and more hard to come by. And it's sad, because the thing that's sort of, I think that in terms of the Ukrainian people, I think the thing that's kept them afloat over the past however many weeks is the fact that they are nationalistic and that they care and love about you, that they care about and love Ukraine so much. And they're heavyweight boxers who are champions of the world, and then also Lomachenko down in the lower weight division, have come back and have, armed up and are ready to fight for their country. And what else is that besides just nationalism and national pride? Because if they didn't give a damn about Ukraine, then they would have gotten the hell out of there.
Yeah, 100%. I also think, nationalism really comes up when there is a big threat, as we are seeing. I think you look at 9/11, how nationalistic the US got straight after that attack. When there's a foreign power or foreign entity that attacks a country, that's when it's going to really bring back a lot of nationalism, which I think is a great thing, obviously to a degree. And I
think that's just good. It's good to have a balance, because on one hand, you want to be nationalistic and you want to, have pride in your country and want the best for your country, etc. But then extreme nationalism, I mean, on the extreme end of that, you've got Mussolini and Hitler, and that's not what you want. But also the repression of nationalism, and especially, like I have said before, through the EU and through having some bureaucrat in Brussels telling you what to do with your country, or a table of bureaucrats, That then gives rise to parties in other countries, like the Alternativa for Deutschland in Germany, I think it's called, the Alternative for Germany, and they're a very extreme far right nationalist group. And there's one in Italy as well. I can't remember what they're called. I'm not going to try and butcher that one too. But yeah, this gives rise to those extremely nationalistic parties. And if you think that demonizing nationalism is going to bring about some sort of peace, it's not, because people are inherently nationalistic. I think there's a great essay from George Orwell saying that people love the sounds of, marching parades and drums, and they want to be a part of these things. And I think that there's definitely something to say for that. So I'll just finish off this article really quickly. So pride in our country, nothing can be further from the truth. Nationalism certainly can turn ugly, as Putin is showing us. But as the Ukrainian people and their president are also showing us, it can be one of the most beautiful and necessary things too. If Ukrainians did not have a feeling of national identity and national pride, they would not have currently be rallying around their president and their flag. They are doing so because they have something to fight for, not abstract ideas about values, and certainly not the sort of belonging that talks about the nation state only as something guilty of terrible sins and unforgivable crimes. The Ukrainian people are taking up arms to fight for the most basic thing of all, the right to have a place to call home, the right to be self-governing, the right not to have external powers rule over you by force or the threat of force. All these things and much more have been derided in our society in recent years. Anyone who expresses pride in our country or defense of our country has been dismissed in the ugliest of terms. It makes you wonder sometimes whether we face a challenge like Ukraine is. If we faced a challenge like Ukraine is, whether we'd just roll over and take it as our dues? I hope not. Now, I think that there's something to be said about the external threat. I think we're seeing that there could be a potential internal threat as well. There's definitely, obviously, an external threat, and that's really reared its head over the last few weeks. But there also could be that internal threat now, because we are seeing authoritarian measures being taken by Zelensky, and it's being cheered on by the West. So I think that when they have that level of support from from very powerful external forces from the West and from Europe to enact martial law and take these extreme drastic measures, it could always go too far. There's always that risk. But I do totally agree with what he says about needing to restore some level of nationalism and have something to fight for. Thinking of your country and thinking of your people as something to fight for.
Yeah, definitely. I think the internal threat is the one that I'm probably a little bit more worried and concerned about as well, because obviously an external threat like the Ukraine and even like Russia and China and things like that is really bad. But you just look at over the last couple of years of the COVID madness and the fact that it appears that the majority of the population supports it. And that's where you get a lot of internal division, because obviously you've got one side of the population that wants mandates and lockdowns and stuff like that, and you've got the other side of the population that doesn't want that thing. That's where you get a lot of internal conflict, and that's what really concerns me, because you can sort of expect politicians to want to continue expanding their power, and you can expect politicians and those sorts of things, and even big corporations to keep wanting to push that line and that boundary. But what you don't expect is the people to cheer them on, because usually it's like the people will hold them back and pull the reins on the politicians, and the same with the companies and the corporations. But yeah, we're not seeing that right now. Like we said last week, drastic outrage.
Drastic times, though,
Big time. But so look, I think if we were to be attacked, then yes, I think there'll be a return to nationalism to some degree. But also, you just got to wonder, this is not being a Russian apologist or whatever those things there too, but you look at it from Putin's perspective with NATO just creeping ever further to the east, which when Germany reunified, I believe there was a promise given that NATO wouldn't expand any further to the east of Germany. Yeah. And yet over the decades, they've been creeping and creeping and creeping. And you can definitely understand, even though I disagree with it completely, but you can understand.
You can understand why he's pissed off. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I can understand that. And that's true. There was
an threatened as well
any further east. So
correct.
Like if Ukraine was to join NATO, that would be on the border of their country. And I heard Putin in a talk the other day saying, if we put troops on the border of Canada, or if we put troops on the border of Mexico, would you view that as a threat? And yeah, obviously, whilst I don't think that invading was the right thing to do, you can see why he's not happy about it, and you can see why he felt like he had to take some action. But at the same time, I also do think that he is a man who he went into Georgia in 2009. He went into Crimea in 2014. He clearly has some sort of imperialistic goal in mind to restore the Russian Empire, and and it's not like he's a sort of been backed into a corner and has to do something about it, because the diplomacy, I'm sure, could have been used more effectively, and I'm sure there's many more goals and aspirations that are underlying with Putin.
Yeah, big time. Well, I think the other thing this reflects, though, is the fact that we are going to be into more. We're going to see a lot more conflict as time goes on, because the US being so strong and dominant in the world as the world leader really has kept things like China and Russia at bay. But as they decline and they start withdrawing, from being the world police and things like that as well, that gives countries like Russia, China, even Iran or whatever it is, to a certain degree, that the room to move, start pushing and challenging the great power of the USA. And so, what does it mean for us as individuals? Don't earn less than 300,000, as we've all learned, and have an electric car.
Get a Tesla. Get a Tesla. It's the moral of the story.
That's it. Get a Tesla and don't be poor. But definitely, start stocking up. Start thinking and having like these plans for if things do go down and if things do go bad, what will you do? We can't even rely on our own governments to protect our financial sort of situation. When you look at things like Canada and the seizure or the freezing of the accounts there. And then you even look at the Netherlands with sequestering property. Just make sure you are prepared, not only as an individual, but also as a family unit as well, because we are moving to times where that could, obviously it doesn't mean it's guaranteed, but it could be very, very valuable to have those things.
We're most definitely moving into a time where your thoughts and your ideological alignments and your beliefs and the people that you align yourself with and the movements that you align yourself with could have real effects on your life, and could have real effects on your income, and could have real effects on your bank accounts potentially. And we don't live in a society where freedom of expression is demonstrated and where freedom of expression is practiced anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because if we were living in that society, then there would be no crackdowns on peaceful protesters, and there would be no media propaganda constantly berating people who are peaceful protesters, because that's not a society where people are able to freely express themselves.
Yeah, they wouldn't censor one side of the argument. But I'd also say that, and I've been saying this to some people I know too, that the way that our old way of life and the way that we knew, our way of life that we knew growing up and all the past that we've all been raised on is dead and gone. But it just takes a long period of time for that to completely fizzle out. There's a religious saying where he is our father and we have killed him, and now we feast off his corpse or whatever it is. I don't know where in the Bible that is, but it's somewhere in there. And what it basically says is that even though you kill the old ways, it takes a long period of time for it to actually transition away, and you can still live off the corpse of what you've killed for a long period of time. So definitely everything that we knew leading into the pandemic, even I would say, is gone, right? It's done. We don't have the freedom of speech. We don't have all those, our old society of even things like, relating back to relationships and dating and things like that too. It's all dead and gone. But what we're just seeing is the delay between that happening and everything else happening there as well. So, because again, even just with the fertilizers, you can see the price of fertilizers going up quite heavily, but you don't see the results of that straight away because there's that lag time for it to work its way through the system. It's the same thing with this too. Our way of life is dead, and we're going to be seeing something completely different emerge out of the other end of it.
And hopefully it's not all doom and gloom, but that is a great way to finish this, I think, mate. Right, doom and gloom, unless you've got a better note to finish it on.
Well, the only thing I would sort of say too is that while, yes, it is dead, we do have the ability to somewhat shape not the big picture, but definitely our own individual things. Again, like we've said, I think over the last couple of weeks, that we get closer connections to those who think and feel the same. and we can really foster those connections on a much deeper level. And also just remind ourselves that, there's so much more to life than just the chasing the old way of the old system, just going to the beach or the hinterland or whatever else it is. There's lots to enjoy there too. So, yeah.
Well, love your work, mate. And thank you so much, guys, for tuning in tonight, wherever you've tuned in, whether it's live or whether it's after the fact. But yeah, guys, make sure you're subscribing wherever you are. Hit us up if you guys want, Contrarian Daily at Instagram. Any questions that you've got, any topics that you want to see covered. We're going to be doing a lot of more structured videos in the coming weeks where we're sort of going to sit down and choose a topic and talk about it in depth, whether it's things from, how to prep for, what was it, for food shortages, mental blank again, things to do even as far as like dating market and that sort of thing, and just the world that we live in, our new way of life and how things are going. So there's going to be lots of cool content coming out. We've got some great ideas coming up, and so make sure you guys are subscribed, hit that notification bell on YouTube.
Great. Bye for now.
Thanks, guys.